Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman and fellow committee members. My name is Janae Jameson with the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice. I know all of you are very familiar with our organization, but just to provide some context of who we are and what we do, our coalition group is very diverse. We're based on working together and educating and empowering voters across the state of Louisiana. And through our voter engagement and community organizing work, we seek to unify our members on a collective voice for a more vital and cohesive force that can successfully advocate for an agenda of shared values and issues. And throughout the past 5 years, myself personally, I've worked on the ground and engaged community members on the importance of voting and turnout. And with our verse being diverse, with power mapping, listening sessions, organizing, policy and advocacy, all of those great things, we have successfully united 500,000 voters of color and voting on a rate of 65% on statewide campaigns. And what I can say, based on experience, when folks are connected to a particular issue and have a candidate that they actually believe has the opportunity that can really win, they will turn out. But we know that that's a rarity, right? And community members believe in a movement. Community members believe in having a voice and a turnout based on momentum and opportunity. So having community input, I know you all can agree, is vital within this entire process. 250 people were present here at the Capitol on Tuesday, stressing the importance of having additional representation and having their voices heard. 250 people were present on Tuesday because they want an opportunity to choose a candidate of choice or a competitive district. 250 people were present in support of an additional majority-minority congressional district. I will say that it's pretty disheartening that House Bill 1 presented today refuses to address community input of additional representation for Black or minority voters of color. We hone in on Louisiana being a melting pot, being so diverse, yet the legislature does not represent that. Throughout the roadshow, there were several maps, as we've frequently talked about here today, that provided various ways to create an additional majority-minority district. We've also shared today, based off of the experts that were present here, that Section 2 of the VRA requires the redistricting body to ensure that Black voters have an equal opportunity to participate in the political process in choosing a candidate of their choice. So this is a legislative body that constantly focuses on adhering to the law and a process, yet here we are again with a map that potentially may limit and dilute minority representation and voting power for the next 10 years. Louisiana has a history of racially gerrymandered maps. I've stated myself personally at least 5 of the road shows. And if we speak on data and numbers, what we just discussed, voters of color above the age of 18, now this is voters of color, not necessarily Black voters, but are over 60% of the population in almost all of the proposed districts and the maps previously submitted yesterday in the Senate by some of your fellow colleagues and folks that you work with. But for some reason, the map presented today found such difficulty in creating an accurate representation. Now, I'll constantly hear conversations on community of interest and assets and maintaining parish boundary lines. All of these principles were kept in mind when conducting this map, yet there is a continual clear negligence in not addressing the voices of thousands who spoke in support of additional representation of communities of color. I'm an advocate for communities of interest. I spoke yesterday about coming from a rural community, being a devout Catholic, having a mother who was an engineer at Texaco Oil and Company, and a mother who was a teacher for 33 years. So I hone in all of those things as well. But how can you keep a state united and ignore a vast majority of its population? Understanding a map is not an easy task. I'm not an expert. I'm not a demographer. I'm not a redistricting attorney. So to address some of those questions that I think that were provided for our community were pretty difficult to even answer, right? But what I can say is I do speak up for the will of the people, and I do represent community voices in those who are members of our organization. What you vote on, as you all know, will determine the lives of others for the next 10 years. So as elected officials, you are hired to perform and hold up to a particular standard because you actually control the quality of lives. You control the quality of my life. So, saying all that to say, we are asking for additional representation to choose a candidate of choice, regardless of their race, sex, or party affiliation, is simply having the opportunity. So it's only fair that all Louisianians have at least the opportunity. Only asking for an opportunity, that's it. We know that results are endless when the opportunity is actually given.
Thank you. We do have a question from Representative Ivy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Thank you again for your passion and doing the good work, trying to bring people together and try to make sure that the representation in Congress is reflective of the communities that we all serve. So thank you. I do have, I believe, a legitimate concern that in an effort to get to that 50+1, and I haven't done the analysis, not this specific analysis yet, but you did mention a very good point concerning when people feel a little disenfranchised, like their vote doesn't count, they don't turn out. And so you believe that by providing an additional majority-minority district, that would increase turnout to whatever degree, and that's where I'm concerned is if there was a map that had two districts that were 50+1, all the other issues, communities of interest, just kind of ignore all that for a moment, but the historical population or voting population, again 50+1, but maybe it's really heavily weighted in the younger 18 to 20 years old, which are, at times can be the ones who don't show up to vote as compared to the older generation there. So it's possible, I would imagine, to draw a map that would produce that 250+1 districts, but yet maybe a candidate wouldn't able, maybe the minorities in either district would not be able to actually elect a candidate in a choice based on the traditional turnout, or even it have to, you know what I'm saying? Is that a concern that y'all have had in how these additional districts are shaped?
Well, I will say it may possibly be a concern, right? But as you've heard some of our colleagues for NAACP, LDF, they've actually compared these analyses and watched these trends as well, and they're very confident in the performance. And what I can say is working on the ground, again, when folks actually believe in something and having that opportunity, and even the momentum that's been built around this entire redistricting process, having 250 people come here and sitting at the Capitol, ensuring that their voices are being heard, is built off of momentum and believing in something. So with an increase in percentages, because I think we can agree that 30% versus 50%+1 is definitely an increase, right?
Absolutely improvement, but you may be having to sacrifice in a more secure district is what my point is. So there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, it may be a trade-off, but the only thing that I'm asking you as an elected leader and a governing body is to at least try to get there as much as possible and not ignore and neuter the voices of thousands who have came and stood before you.
Thank you, and I think that's what we're here to do. And I'll make one last comment, and that is, how many of us actually ever really get to try to elect a candidate of our choice? How many times is the candidate of our choice not even on the ballot? So anyway, I'm gonna leave. That was
right, and I hope that within this process we can actually create a competitive districts and actually change that narrative.
Right. Thank you.
The session will continue throughout the month of February. You can make your voice heard by telling your legislators to pass fair and equitable political districts. Go to powercoalition.org/takeaction or visit our link in bio.